Welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we work on ways to achieve those two goals and we invite friends on to help us. This week, you are going to love, we have Dr. Alison J Kay. She has secrets that no one else uses to inspire, upgrade, disrupt old paradigm. Okay, let's try that again.
Disruption.
Right, already we have disruption. What? Dr. Alison J Kay has secrets that no one else uses to upgrade, inspire, and disrupt old paradigms within her community and the collective. That's us. She is an award-winning #1 international best-selling author and the founder of the Vibrational UPgrade System, which we are going to be talking about. She's an experienced subtle energies practitioner and a natural healer with a holistic approach towards helping others thrive in mind, body, and spirit. And this is all reinforced by her 10 years in Asia, studying subtle energies and ancient wisdom. With 20 plus years working in and teaching yoga, meditation, energy, medicine, mind, body, fitness, longevity, and holistic health with a specialized focus on the chakra system, Dr. Alison brings a unique perspective that facilitates massive change. And I know that some of us really want and need some massive change. So we're really excited to be here. Thanks so much for joining us, Alison.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Your topic matches what I do so well. So I'm glad to be able to be of service.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Financial independence and long life. And I know both because we've talked a lot about clearing up those blocks that keep us like, why aren't we already all rich? Well, is there something holding us back, right? All the money, all the abundance is right there. And for some reason, we're not accepting it. So, so what are subtle energies?
Okay. So the Tibet's an interesting place to start. So I think in the West, we tend to just refer to it as energy. Whereas like in the Tibetan practices, it's understood that there's a spectrum of what they call crude, which is the most physically manifest, all the way to the most subtle energies. And so even as I'm training new vibration upgrade practitioners to go out there, I'm working with their ability to perceive over into the subtle realms, what's going on in their hands, what's going on within a client. So there's more and more subtle realms to attune to that isn't immediately apparent to the 5 physical senses input. And so as we grow in our vibration, raising it, and as we purify our consciousness of old back of the house consciousness, what's understood in meditation is that these 5 physical senses start to have the thresholds that have been put on them to help us be sane, navigating the multidimensional physical plane. So all the stuff that's actually there to see and perceive doesn't come at us. Those thresholds get lessened with the more our consciousness expands. And that's something that is known in the field of meditation actually too. I remember being in India for my yoga teacher training and asking something around that to my teacher at the time. And it was a really interesting response, but that's basically in a nutshell. And part of my mission, frankly, Christine, is when I came back from the decade in Asia, it was to help what I perceived as limitations that we have in the West that we don't need to have because we are so conditioned and entrained to measurement from the physical, even with money, like the volume. And if I look at what my money is doing, that informs me of how successful I am or how unsuccessful I am, whether it's in my profession or in my use of the law of attraction or my use of allowing myself to have abundance. Whereas in traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, I teach Qigong too. The basic tenet of it is where Qi goes, blood follows. So where energy goes, the physical follows. It matches what quantum physics knows about the wave and the particle. And I add in where consciousness goes, the Qi follows nowadays because we're in such new times. It's that much more, I don't want to say subtle, but the subtle energies are that much more enhanced in our lives now. So where our consciousness goes, the energy follows, and then the physical follows. So the work is on the inside. So I see so much of the time, particularly Westerners, particularly Americans, saying, I don't see that yet. So it's not happening. Whereas subtle energy shift plus another subtle energy shift, plus another one adds up to eventually a physical shift. But I see the impatience of the ego mind demanding, I've done 4 clearings. I've done a program. Why isn't it showing up yet? You know what I mean? So I'm kind of here to help disrupt even the noise that's out in the spiritual community for people who are starting to use the law of attraction and having conclusions occur as they try to use it and it doesn't work.
Right. So let me just like summarize to a total layperson who might be hearing all this stuff for the first time, is that what you're saying is we're looking at, or we're the things that we can perceive with our 5 senses, we're thinking that that's it, that's reality. Like, right, I did a meditation about $1 million. There's not $1 million sitting now in front of me on my couch. What's going on? I'm screwing this up. What am I doing wrong? And because we're so focused on what's right in front of us, we're not opening up to those subtle energies that are bringing in the stuff that we want. So like we're almost blocking ourselves with reality. Does that seem?
Yeah. But it's also like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't have this belief that it is a big rewarding God, or that karma works, or the universe works in a way that it's punishing. I understand karma with a lot of studying and tens of thousands of dollars spent to understand how to clear it. I don't understand karma as punishment. Yes, it's cause and effect. It's simple, it's linear, leaving that to the side. But the sense of I'm being punished because of something I did before in another lifetime, when we have something that's inexplicable. Instead, what I understand it is our soul's dharma to evolve beyond that previous set point with that issue in another lifetime. And so it's coming up again because we chose it at some level. The bottom line is I don't know. But my sense of it from all that I've done for, the research and the experiences that I've had ushering in tens of thousands of people at this point through a process that is consistent, there seems to be a certain time in somebody's life when karma kicks in and they can go into victim, or they can go into recognizing, that there is a movement beyond that issue that is actually empowerment. So I feel like when people encounter the law of attraction, or they do it in abundance, even like nowadays, the clearings and activations are used more frequently, which is interesting to me. If they do an abundance activation, they don't automatically see some extra money show up. It's almost like a spoiled brat demanding from some parent figure, I did what you said, now give me, where is what I want? And it just doesn't work that way. It's if we're going to be given, I said this in my last 2 books, actually, if we're going to be given the power to create, it's not going to be given to somebody who has a lot of ego, that's an unstable and selfish, and will use that for selfish motives. If we're going to have an increasing ability to co-create what we desire, which may include a new influx of money, it's going to happen from somebody who's done a lot of purification work, so that their vibration is pure enough, so that, and I hesitate even saying that, Christine, because I remember like a guy in my Magic Manifestation and Money Flow program. It's my signature program. It's called that because once you're in alignment, you're able to manifest as if by magic, and that includes money. And I remember, he's Canadian, and I don't know why that's important, maybe because it's just not that extra degree of American focus on materialism. But he wanted a new red sports car. And I remember tuning in and really wrestling with the idea of, if he doesn't want to do stuff of service, can he just get the red car? And and I got that, yes, if it's going to make his heart sing. Like, I have another masterminder right now. She's actually at the highest level of Vibrational UPgrade System practitioner certification, and she's a minimalist, and eats really healthy, vegan, physical therapist, as well as the energy medicine brought in from her work with me. And I heard her say last week on our call, I let myself have red Fiat. I've been wanting it, but there was no way I could justify it. I already have a car. I don't need a new one. And she just said, you know what? Now I have a summer car and I have a winter car. And so she is pure enough after all that work. And yet her heart is so joyous now from giving that to herself. So it's almost like selfishness compounds upon selfishness. And it's just, there's hard, even with the way energy flows, if we're locked down into selfishness, I'm pointing to in front of my heart, chakra, the receiving that's required, the opening and the magnetism to draw it to you isn't in such a calibration that the receptivity required and the magnetism required and the allowing of the receiving of that money required isn't going to happen. So it's not just about purifying to become a good person. It's about the simple mechanics of how energy works. That I say all of this.
So if I'm saying, okay, you know, I really want $1 million or whatever, I'm just using that as a stupid example, then if I want that just for myself because I want to take a lot of great vacations and have a heck of a life and and whatever, but I'm gonna does it matter if so you're saying that wouldn't be particularly pure motive, so it's probably not going to come to me?
I don't know the bottom line. I've been asking this question, it's exact question for years, but what I have observed in giving you those two different examples is that it seems like it comes easier to a person who has a much more purer sense of motivation. I also know I have another client that I've been doing remote viewing with, for God's sakes. She lives over on the other side of the planet going in a multi-million-dollar business deal, and she's had me track the deal all the way through. And I heard myself saying to her, because of what I was perceiving, in order to catalyze more movement with the deal, the leg that it was on at that time, you need to focus on what good you're going to do with the money. And that was in the moment intuitive guidance. So if I were to gather up the observations of how money seems to work, I know that if it'll make somebody's heart sing, we need that joy on the planet because of the holographic interconnectivity we all are. And so that will benefit so many other people with the heart singing, somebody who's already high, right? Or higher. So it seems like, yes, it's almost like the universe wants to get like as much boost out of it as possible, right? So if it's somebody who's already high, who's going to spread more joy juice, then here, have it, you know, or if it's somebody who's like not going to do that, then maybe not so much ease with getting that million.
Well, and there might be some of our own blocks as well, right? If we just think, oh, you know, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, that's selfish, you don't need that much money, then that's also going to block us.
Yes, but the interesting thing, Christine, is that's what I was bringing up the girl, my student with the red fiat for, because she wasn't blocking it. I mean, she was saying, I don't need it, so therefore, why should I do it? So, but she's much more conscious of her choices because of all the clearing we've done at the back of the house consciousness. So she was aware of, wait a minute, I'm blocking this. I feel like it's going to give me a whole lot of joy. And why should I deny myself that joy? So she had enough fresh, vital life force energy, or chi, up at the front of the head. It's the other half of vibrational upgrade. I do the clearings and activations for the energy medicine part, releases the vital life force energy. And then I use that in the other half, applied mindfulness, to have more presence as you go about making your choices day to day to create.
Interesting. So Alison, how did you get interested in this? How did you get onto this journey?
The money bit, when I came back from Asia, Christine, I was like expecting to work with spiritual awakening and talking about like health and wellness and longevity. And I couldn't, because the people I was put in front of were so fear-based about money because the market had just done its crash over here. I was tucked away in Asia, and I had actually increased my net cash flow 60% from the move I had made. So I came back and I'm like, okay. And then I became extremely proficient around money blocks, clearing those, because it just was where people were at. So that's the money leg of it. But I also just see it as like everybody uses something in their lives to limit themselves. And whether that's money flows, or that's relationships, or that's health, or that's time freedom, it's almost like people choose something to punish themselves with. So how did I get into this in the first place? It's in my books, really.
All right, I'll buy the book.
It's not to say buy the book. It's just, it's a story, you know? I mean, I've always been like this. I grew up going through nature with my older brother after school and on the weekends, and I always felt connected to everything, and I was a part of it. And then when I was a teen, I was writing in my journal and connecting with my higher self. So I was always sure to stay connected. And I went in as a psych major in college. After 3 semesters, I was horrified because I was like, this isn't showing me how to be the happiest, most thriving version of myself whatsoever. So ever since then, I've been like looking at the holistic model of how do I live the most joyous, thriving life and help others do so.
That's a beautiful calling.
Thanks. Big.
Yeah, it's big stuff. That's no small task you put on yourself there.
I know, right? I mean, I'm letting go of degrees of it, which is really great. So much more awakening now. There's so many more people awake now. So I get to tweak and go to different sides of it than the space I've been holding from 2010 to 2020, which was vast.
It's interesting because I
And
mean,
they
I
have to be
feel
outside.
myself how much that the world is changing, but is there like are we actually speeding up? Are things actually speeding up? Are things actually changing, or is it just my perception because I'm getting older? I mean,
No, time goes by quicker when you're older. Gig, just dismiss that. So in 2011, I was approached by Voice America. I'd only been back here a year. My hardest culture shock was when I came back to the States. And I've lived in other places at other times in my life for extended amounts of time. And coming back to the States after that decade in Asia was the harshest cultural shock I've ever had. And so I'm a year in and had dropped what I had been doing classroom teaching and classroom administrator in the international school system and took this energy medicine and mindfulness business full time. Voice America approached me and said, do you want to do a show for us around the Mind Galactic Alignment for December 21st, 2012? And I was like, I'm not doing anything with that in my business other than taking VIP clients to the Mayan ruins. And how would you know about that? Okay, let me have 24 hours or 48 hours to think about it. And I got back to them because it was a full body Jess and I did it. And so I brought on a bunch of weekly radio show for 2.5 years. I brought on a bunch of specialists and scientists from my first book, who I talked about, who had created measurements of subtle energy at that point. And then I got into bringing on specialists for talking about what December 21st, 2012 alignment meant. And I ended up on a cruise from Florida to the Chichen Itza Mayan ruins as the yoga teacher and energy medicine practitioner for that cruise. And we had special permission to go with a Mayan shaman there, having special ceremony that day at Chichen Itza. And I had just been there the year before with a VIP client, barefoot, nothing. This year, December 21st, 2012, it was like lightning was coming up through my feet. Bottom line is, after all of this research, the Mayans aren't the only ones. Yogi Bhajan talked about this in the yogic world. It's a switching of one yuga to another, one era to another. That's what's been happening right around 2012. And then the age of Pisces going into the age of Aquarius. So there are a couple of different major cultures or perspectives that are all pointing to this time we're in. What I know is that 2012 to 2032 is a 20-year window where we are going through, as my second book says, the subtopic, or the subtitle rather, easing humanity's evolutionary transition. So we're doing that. Like, we're going through what's considered our greatest evolutionary leap ever. And so 2012-ish to 2019-ish seemed to me to be all about clearing. So people were popping open and awakening. Yoga became more interesting for more people. Chakras, spirituality, like 2012 to 2016-ish. And then, well, that's what I saw. But some people are still doing the awakening now, post-COVID. So I was seeing COVID as like just more of the same, clearing out all of the old dysfunction where anything's imbalanced, anything's out of alignment, where there's abuses of power, masculine and feminine aren't balanced, et cetera, so that the new could now come in. And we are right now just after the eclipse in May, the full lunar eclipse that we just had, in what feels to me like the building stage. So let me fast forward to 2019. For my birthdays, I typically go to some Mayan ruin for the equinoxes because I'm a birthday equinox in September girl. And I had another Mayan guide there, and my friend and I hired him, and I asked him, what do you consider the old age versus the new age is about? And he said, well, the old era is about destruction and the new era is about construction. And so con means with, so we're building together. D means, to undo. So it's, to me, we're moving in now literally to that phase of being able to build our new paradigm that's much more aligned. All the institutions, all of the way that we run our society and organize it, and the way we each are individually. But what we've been going through is a vibrational backdrop from the astronomy, astrological, cosmic forces, literally, that have been dumping more light onto our planet. We've had more rare eclipses and rare astrological alignments that haven't happened for 500 years. In the last 9-10 years, like there was a star of Bethlehem that aligned the way it was when Jesus was born. There's been like more phenomena that NASA has gotten on board and is tracking. You see how much more people are talking about full moons. You see how much more people are talking about going out and viewing eclipses. We are going through what is considered humanity's greatest evolutionary leap. And part of that awakening, it's called humanity's spiritual awakening time. And part of that awakening is awakening to our own consciousness and our own co-creative powers in this new era of construction. So what that means is metaphysically we're awakening. So if I'm doing meta, which is beyond the physical, then I'm more capable of recognizing if time speeds up when I'm having fun and time slows down when I'm bored. Doesn't that mean, therefore, that it is not static? In fact, it's something that I project. If the interpretation changes, it is actually, in fact, static. It's its own phenomena that I'm creating from my own projection, because it changes, my own perception of it changes from what I just gave an example of. So in higher vibrations, like I'm talking quickly, but I'm also a higher, like when I go through my task list to create, it's ridiculous. Like I have nicknames of like the beast of manifestation. It's good. I teach what I do, a magic manifestation, a money flow, and attune people to be able to do that, because I do. So I know that with a higher vibration, it's speedier. So yes, time is sped up because the overall backdrop we're living in is of a higher vibration, and it's catalyzing everybody to do their work to raise theirs. How's that for an answer?
Well, it starts to bring up, like, as I learn more about quantum physics and so, and I learn more about all the universal laws and stuff, that, it's almost like too much to like wrap your head around. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you have to do it paced, Christine, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember I have a really vast intellect. I know I do. I have no qualms with saying that outright. Now, when I was 23 or 22, I opened up a book from India about the subtle bodies, subtle energy bodies. And I actually, for the first time and only time in my life, closed the book because it was just too much at the stage I was at. Yeah, you have to pace it.
And it's interesting because now, like, I hear things that I know I've heard before, and I hear them differently, of course, now, because there's just, isn't it? It's cool.
This what?
Well, because like you say, I've built more blocks, right? I have more steps. I'm a little higher up up the steps, so I understand a little bit more about what I'm hearing. I can connect it with other things that I've learned before. So,
yeah,
I mean, I think so. It could be like a universal thing, but it feels like it's something that I've just started to grow and evolve to a place where I understand things a little bit better.
Yeah, it's totally cool, this path, because like I have to repeat so much of what I say. And it's interesting to watch. And I've gone through this myself, when you hear it differently, because you've had enough expansion of your consciousness that the ancient wisdom actually is able to seed. Like you can hear it. I think a lot of, especially with the days of now of social media, those pithy things from the LOA, for example, God bless the law of attraction. I love what it's done to open people up to understand their capacity to choose and create. But I feel like with the days of social media, you have people out there, like I've even had people come to me and say, I feel like I'm supposed to be choosing this big grandiose mission, and I just want to take a break. And I said to her, it was a comment on my blog post recently, and I said to her, yeah, go at your own pace. It doesn't mean just, so it's like the messaging is so off with social media, pithy little sayings, like it sounds great. You hear this universal law, and then to the implementation of it is where people get so tripped up. And that's what I'm doing day in and day out. And I'm watching people like go through that clearing, purity, raising of the vibration, and then they hear it and they get it. Whereas before it acts as like a inspiration maybe, or a checkpoint where people then make themselves feel even worse. I'm not doing that. I can't do that. I want to try. It sounds so good, but I don't do that. Man, I can't stay focused on what I want. I always end up going negative. Or man, I get so triggered. They always end up annoying me. Like people will use it also for self-abuse.
Well, that's the bad part of it. And I think that's one of the reasons that law of attraction is hard for people to get their head around, because they're thinking, there's no way I did this to myself.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way I would have wanted this. I didn't mean to attract this. Right.
Yep. And then they get on themselves. If they're not as strong as what you just showed with their ego stability, they'll go into, instead, I've seen, what did I do wrong to miscreate breast cancer? How did I end up with this abuser in my field? What did I do wrong? Like, so this, then they go into this whole thing that they've done something wrong and it's all their fault. So I'm like one of the few spiritual teachers out there that says, hey, there's like at least 10% that's random, whether it's karma kicking in or it's just you were there. It doesn't mean you're causing everything. You don't control everything that comes into your field, you know, trying to get the balance back to having a genuine understanding of it.
So how do you think we do this to ourselves? Like create these blocks and just sort of like get our energy all bound up?
Well, I mean, it's what I teach how do I think that what I've seen is, and I'm making the noises I'm making because I spend day in and day out teaching this to others. And again, I'm a blend of Western psychology and the holistic model, much from the East, but not just from the East. Although my depth of study has been in those modalities. We have different levels of consciousness. We have our conscious mind. You hear your thoughts. When you're sitting and meditating and you are like, oh, wow, I'm thinking again, that's your ego mind having the thoughts. 85% at least, and that's generous. I see it more like 90% from working with all the people I'm working with, even 95% of our choices are made from our unconscious, and un means not, subconscious, sub means under. So neither of those levels are generating thoughts that we consciously hear. Yet that's where we make 85 to 90-ish% of our daily choices from. And all of that's based on the past. And the past means conditioning from your society. The past means imprints from your parents. So from 0 to 2, we don't have any separation from our parents. We think and feel what they do. At age 2, when we start to go, no, with the terrible 2s, that's our fun time for our parents and us to start separating and have a separate ego identity. That's when our identity starts. So from 2 to 8, we're sitting there with this really cute childlike logic asking, how does life work on planet Earth? So let's say we have, what do you have? Do you have any siblings?
I have a younger sister.
All right, so let's say your younger sister looked at you and saw the way that you would listen to your mom. And your younger sister loved the feeling that your mom gave you from listening to your mom. And she thought, okay, how do I get that good feeling? I want that feeling too. Well, if older sister Christine does it through listening, I guess I get that yummy love feeling if I'm a good listener. And so what that can show up as then is it can become a hindrance later, because it could then possibly get built upon with, I need to be seen and not heard in order to be loved. It's not safe for me to speak up for myself. Something bad will happen, like the sense of something bad will happen. The conclusion isn't there of that bad thing, but that sense of I won't get what I want if I am speaking rather than listening. So that's at the subconscious level. Trauma, because our ego mind can't feel the trauma. Traumas go into the subconscious level. Karma's at the unconscious level. So if we have a trauma, for example, this doesn't just happen from trauma, but if we have a trauma and our ego mind's busy protecting us, one of the things we might have for an unconscious conclusion is it's not safe for me to be around, let's say sexual abuse. It's not safe for me to be alone with any men who are over puberty. And it's exaggerated, right? So then that affects all of the relationships, that affects her own sexual life. And so that gets carried at an unconscious level, but you don't know that, man. You'll walk into a party and you'll be like looking around at the people, and you may want to have like a sense of a safe man, but all your vibration, because that trauma hasn't been cleared yet, picks up or you go to is the guy that doesn't have a safe vibration, because it's what you know. Energy is our first language, and all of that resides as beliefs, thoughts, conclusions at a subconscious and unconscious level. And when we start doing the mining and we clear it out, that releases this consciousness to then come to the front of the mind, where the most modulating and moderating, like this is the last place to develop for a teen. which is why they're so reactive, because the limbic is so well developed back there. But the point is that in order to have more consciousness in the present moment to make a new choice, we need to release that back of the house consciousness. And the way to do it, I've seen, is to stop perpetuating the past by clearing it out. And you know you have a block if you're saying, I want A, and you're not going for A, but you're doing choices and behaviors that go for B, that go for not A.
Right, exactly. I want A, but I'm going to go for a D. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So now your vibrational upgrade energy medicine, is that one of the ways that people can clear some of these blocks?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a really fun a product called the Chakra System audio series, and people frankly have been using it for years, and it's still phenomenal to me. The people who come into Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, my signature program, get the Chakra System audio series as a part of the program. It's one of the backbones to it, and it's still phenomenal to me that somebody can come in and have their root chakra having all sorts of physical responses. Their legs will start to get more awakened. Their feet will start to get more awakened. They might have pain in their glutes. As a blockage is clearing, they'll start to like look at their own rejection, fitting in stuff, and maybe see how much more accepted they are than they had previously seen, because that's a root chakra issue, rejection, abandonment. And so it doesn't matter that I recorded them. I don't know. It was before I went to the LA Conscious Life Expo and spoke at that my second year. And I think that was 2012. So 2011, so it's 10 years now. They still are working so phenomenally. So you can use that to go through your system and start the release process, and you'll see that you're getting further and further aligned. But if you do, like, you can go to my website and assess. It lists key traumas, key beliefs, physical, mental, spiritual blockages that are associated with each chakra. And I use it as a really reliable roadmap, basically to enlightenment. Because like if I use the pithy bodily metaphors, like if somebody's knees are hurting, it's because they don't want to move forward. That's crap. It just doesn't work like that. But I find it sometimes, but the most consistent is the chakra system. And so you clear that out, you start to get more aligned. And then from there, the elevation begins to have a higher vibration and have things more at your command. So it's a great way if somebody's listening, go there, self-assess, as sample clearings right underneath the self-assessment for each chakra, and then buy it and use it. But only use one chakra MP3 a day, because they really do work. And you're going to throw yourself into a healing response where like you're clearing the heart chakra, and all of a sudden all the anger, the resentment, the bitterness starts, because they work. But I do work, so I keep doing it instead of living on a desert island, right? So like then I've seen people end up like frustrated and angry. Alison, I'm so angry. Well, go take a bath in Himalayan pink salt, because that helps with emotional purging, and stop listening to the heart chakra for a couple of days, please. So only do one at a time, because they have effects, one a day.
So I don't think, even at my advanced age here, I don't think that I really have a good understanding of chakras. I mean, I know we only have like 18 more minutes, but is there any way you could like give me like a real like summary, a real primer? Because I don't think I'm the only one who's confused about chakras.
Yeah, I don't think you are either. So yeah, thanks for caveating that with, I know we only have 18 minutes left, because I write books on this. I teach like 2-month-long classes. It's just crazy how much information there is. So if we think of chakra, it's a wheel. That's what it means from Sanskrit to English. And we have 7, let's just go with the 7 main ones. There's the top of the head, there's one in between the eyebrows, one at the throat, one at the heart, one at the upper belly, one at the lower belly, one at the tailbone. And each chakra, it means wheel from Sanskrit to English. So it's meant to turn the chi, the vital life force, the ki, the prana, however you're going to term it. Those all mean the same thing. And that fresh vital life force energy is meant to be aiding us with our longevity. And a chakra is the intersection. Think of each of them as an urban center, like a city. And they're the intersection of the mind, the body, and the spirit. That's why I go to them, because of the powerhouses. I can access every level of a human in their experience through a chakra. So every chakra covers a domain of life. For example, I keep pointing to the throat. The throat is, yes, it's about communication. I consider that the first level, but come around like 2014-ish, I started to see it as the second power center, because it's where we have courage. It's where we make choices from. So if we feel limited, for example, our necks will be tight. Let me talk about it differently too. for those of you who are more needing proof kind of people. The chakras relate to every single one is related to one of the major endocrine glands. So the crown chakra is related to the pineal, the 6 chakras related to the pituitary. Both of those are either the master command over the central nervous system or the endocrine system. Plus, Candace Pert, she was doing research for one of the pharmaceutical companies about antidepressants. And she looked at the spinal column, having known of the chakras, and saw that the biggest gatherings of neuroreceptors, the biggest gathering of those were along where the spine at each spot where the chakras are. So that's our 2 major communication systems, our endocrine system or chemical, and our central nervous system or electrical. So if your neck is tight, it's not just because you may have slept wrong. There's holistic causes there. So for example, I was hit by a drunk driver. I was riding my scooter in Asia, and I was knocked so far up in the air because the speed was so strong of the other person. The impact threw me enough in the air to twirl 3 full times before I landed on my top of my head on the ground. And the doctor said most anybody else would have been paralyzed, if not dead. I had nothing wrong because I'm a personal trainer too. I have musculature, and I had a healthy 5th chakra that's helped be buoyant to sustain the impact. I give this example in one of my books, I think the second book. If 2 people are driving along together, they both have the same impact in the same car accident. One may get whiplash and one may not, because that throat chakra has more vital life force energy buoying it up around it. Because the chakra, being a wheel, turns that vital fresh life force energy. So if it's turning, it's not going to allow my musculature to get tight. So when people are getting clearings from me, they'll say, I have a little bit of pain in my shoulder blade, Dr. Alison. And I'll say, well, it's because your heart chakra in the back is opening, and or the throat chakra, because that's a general area. And so an area that's been chronically blocked is now getting fresh vital life force energy into it. So as that hits it, the chronically locked down or tight musculature, as it opens, is going to be a little bit of pain if it's chronically tight. So there is at the mind, the body, and the spirit level, the chakras influence. And I really see it as the roadmap because it corresponds to every major aspect of living as a human being. Then I can get to everything. And so sometimes it's been interesting marketing wise because I can get to everything. It could have me talking generally rather than like specific issues to help with and niche down. But it's true. Like people come into magic manifestation and money flow and they want to work on their money. And meanwhile, they're less triggered. Meanwhile, their relationships improve. Meanwhile, they have more energy. They sleep better. They feel lighter. They're eating better. I mean, it's ridiculous. And it can be so easy. And people, it's just, people are walking around with this idea that it's supposed to be forcing and efforting and making happen in my mind and strategies and following a plan, no matter if I'm hitting a brick wall. No, you can attune your energy, your subtle energy system so that it's open and doing at least half the work for you, which is my mission coming back from Asia. We would have so much less suffering and so much more thriving in the West if we would not run from it going within and just focus on the external and instead go within and learn about the power behind subtle energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Interesting.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Oh, please. Yeah.
We're going to edit this, right?
Well, the video is not edited, so let me put it on pause. All righty. So thank you for that summary of the chakras. And I think that helps me. So when you talk to somebody and they start to sort of tell you what their issues are you kind of thinking, oh, okay, yeah, this person needs to clear out their heart chakra or whatever. So kind of like the diagnosis can kind of lead you to the area that needs the work.
Yeah. And they could, a lot of the times, like on my free monthly call, you can hear somebody say like one sentence and I'm getting it. I have a nickname called Hawkeyes. I see right through. It was kind of difficult, like in my 20s in relationships in my romantic life, right? Guys weren't digging that, but being able to be seen right through in the 20s. But it helps with this work. And so somebody can say one thing and I'll just go right in and start assessing if they open up to me. Like I'm not doing it when I walk into the health food store, I want that turned off because I don't, and I teach my students this too. You don't ever walk up to somebody and give them like unsolicited readings.
Exactly. Can I just say something? I was just noticing you and I really need to do this work.
Like who responds well to that anyway?
Right, exactly. Well, you have some flaws. Let me point them out to you. Thanks.
But it's
I
so
know.
funny sometimes with students, like when they're opening and they're getting their intuitive faculties together, like what they want to do with it. It's, yeah, but I'm all about professionalizing energy medicine, as you can pick up on. Like, it's not just something, it's not energy work, where I might say some prayers for you. It's a total system and a science, and based on universal laws and ancient wisdom.
So, Alison, if somebody wanted to start off with your books and learning more about you and the work that you do, what book would you recommend that they start with?
It would be a tie between my second and third one, either Vibrational Upgrade: A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, Easing Humanity's Evolutionary Transition, or Reasonable Dragons, whose the subtitle for Reasonable Dragons is how to activate the field of possibilities where logical magic is the new normal. That's on audio too. People love the audio version. I train my students. They meet me from all over the world over in the heart chakra of the planet, because the planet has chakras too, in Glastonbury, United Kingdom. And I recorded that in that sacred land, and you can feel it. People love that. So that's Reasonable Dragons is on audible.com too. So I think either one of those are a good starting place. My first one's a real strong text. I wrote it in my last year, started out as my dissertation in Asia. And my most recent book, The Dragon Master Creatrix, it's quite advanced. So I don't know that you'd want to start there. It's a story of a woman going to meet me at one of these trainings and get taken to sacred sites and learn how to work with stone circles and learn how to work with her own energy flow so she can help others, and then learn how to work with dragons and learn how to work at the stone circles and the earth to help the earth and the collective. It's paced. That's kind of the levels of my certifications. First, learn about yourself and energy flows, then you can work on others, and then you can get trained on how to attune others, and then you can get trained on how to work on the collective and then the planet. So it's a progressive, it's fun. I love what I do.
Sounds awesome.
Mm.
So what else should I have asked you? What else? Is there anything in our last 8 minutes together? Is there anything that you really want to make sure that people pick up on? Certainly you have to tell them how they can get in touch with you, but what else should I have asked you that I didn't ask?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever, out of the hundreds of interviews I've had, maybe thousands at this point, I've never had an interviewer say that. Christine, that's impressive. I actually, when I stepped away, I was just thinking about, okay, so let's talk about money. So I know that one of the concepts that really helps Westerners is, so I'm going to blow apart a piece of conditioning here and get a little bit at some unconscious beliefs. We're meant to, well, let me not say it that way. We're meant to make it happen. It's up to us to make it happen. And what I find that shows up as is people will chase after prosperity. So money's just neutral, just like time. And so we are busy projecting everything out onto others, onto time, onto money. So the more clear we get of the back of the house consciousness, the more therefore present we become, the more therefore self-managed successfully we become. And then therefore, the more we're able to actually have and sustain the kinds of thoughts and vibrations that will actually create what we desire. So instead of chasing after prosperity or chasing after a sale, what are you doing about allowing prosperity to chase you? So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that reminds me of like a relationship, right? So you like somebody and you'd be like, oh, hi, can I make you some pie? Like you're chasing after the person, right? And they're just like, get away, like chill out. God, you're too much, and then, but as you just sort of like be a person who is interesting and fascinating and attractive, and then that person may just come to you because they like you, because they think you're cool, whatever, because you're making yourself a happy, joyful, fun, exciting person that other people want to be around, as opposed to saying, will you be my friend? Won't you just please be my friend? But it sounds like that's sort of the same thing that we're doing with money, right?
And that's why I said what I said, great perceiving. Yes, that's exactly it. Because yeah, we do, like I run, as soon as somebody has that chasing energy or that clingy or attachment energy, I'm out of here. But then the whole second level to that, which goes into the deeper work, is how much are you flirting with that person? How flirtatious are you with all of life? so that you're inviting life to come and play with you. And then therefore that means you have to trust yourself to be able to manage successfully what comes in. So if you're busy thinking like, I have to only have this kind of person around me, or I only have to have this kind of person as my client, or I only have to have money find me this way. Like I once had a woman in my program who, yeah, she was married, so her spouse earned money, but she didn't work, and she didn't even play the lottery. She didn't make any crafts. She didn't go, nothing. And she was looking for money to come in. And I'm like, you haven't given it a touch point. Then I have another client. He lives like up in, during COVID times, it's ridiculously locked down when we were talking about this. But he's like, I trust the universe to bring me in a relationship. I'm like, you don't go anywhere. You don't even on any dating sites. How
Right?
do
Are
you
you going to be,
find
you know, with the Amazon delivery guy? I mean, what do you think?
So it's like, there's like a balance with all the spiritual law of attraction stuff, you know? And so, but what I want to get at even more importantly, because I've already made that point, feels like pretty redundantly, is we have beliefs that also will like push away in what we want happening in the example of chasing after prosperity. But then if you're to like, I've had women who have come in saying like almost to the point that my ears here whining, I don't have a good relationship. When am I going to have a man in my life? And when it comes down to it is that they don't even bloody want one. So like where I've gotten them the most free is on the fact that, wait a minute, you're thinking you're supposed to, and you really don't even want one. Look at your behaviors. Look at how much of a free spirit you are. Look at how much you like to travel at the drop of a dime. Sorry, do you really want one? And then, you know, I don't go at it this way so they don't have any choice but to say, of course, you're right, Dr. Allison. You know, like it's not that. What I'm getting at though is just, it's mind blowing because like people will whine about what they can't have and it's in their control the whole bloody time. If you just go into the beliefs behind what you're really up to.
But you're right that society tells us that we have to have this certain thing. And this is what success means, right? But success means, to me, if success means I have to work, you know, 20 hours a day, that is not no success in my mind, right? Success to me is like, oh, you know, I feel like going and getting an ice cream this afternoon. So I'm just going to do that. There's nobody to say I can't.
Yep. And that joy, it's so much of a phenomena that still astonishes me. Astonish might be too strong of a word, but I still marvel at how much joy works in our favor. Like when we make a choice, not out of like heaviness or obligation or burden, but when we make a choice out of sheer like elevation, so much more becomes possible.
And that keeps going into my mind, that choose joy, you know, that I saw on somebody's bumper sticker or whatever, but it is actually kind of like what feels good here, what feels like the best thing to do. And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's telling somebody they have to leave your life and never come back, or sometimes, right, it could just be all different kinds of things. But if it's, you just follow your bliss, right? Follow that, what feels good right now, and see how that works out.
A little hesitant with saying follow your bliss because I feel like people can self-deceive. I want to say instead, like if a thought has the ability to make you feel heavy and weighed down and you want to hunch your shoulders, that's probably a lie or a block and you need to get work done on that. If a thought makes your heart open and you feel like you're in a field of daisies or you just feel lighter, then that's a good measurement for the truth. So it's a good barometer with which to make choices from.
Excellent. And that's easy, right? We can all do that very quickly, very easily.
Yeah.
Dr. Alison J Kay, thank you so much for being with us today. So tell people quickly how they can get in touch with you.
Vibrationalupgrade.com is my website. Vibrational Upgrade has a free Facebook group, and I have a YouTube channel, Alison J Kay, PhD, and my name's 1L, middle initial J, and then Kay. I'm also on Amazon on my stuff.
Perfect. And all that will be in the show notes as well. But I know you have an appointment to go heal someone. So I just want to thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you, listener, for listening. I hope you got something out of this. I know you did. So make sure you share. And at last count, we're in 27 countries. And you know I want to get to 50 by the end of the year. So click this and share it with somebody in another country. I don't care which one. I'm not going to read off that, but I will tell you that Bangladesh was the last country that we just added, and I'm excited about that. Welcome, Bangladesh.
Namaste.
Namaste. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much. Such a pleasure talking to you. And
hey guys, Christine.
Good have interview. A beautiful day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.